Excellency, over to you.
Thank you very much, and indeed, thank you, Madam President. And listen, we will be planting our trees at State House very soon and see how we can turn this COVID period, when we're all in the state that we are currently in, into an opportunity to continue to push our environmental agenda. I'm very happy to see that you're continuing along that path. Let me also say a very good afternoon to all the participants, and to say I managed to watch a good part of the previous sessions, and really quite excited about the enthusiasm and the willingness to be involved that the young people have shown today and continue to show wherever I've been in the country. Generation Unlimited is an initiative who I believe time has come. GenU, I believe, rightly recognizes that the youth agenda is the defining agenda of our time. Because today, the largest generation is that of young people. It is the largest not only in Kenya, but it is the largest in the world. And it is the largest that the world has ever known. Indeed, 1 in every 3 people is under the age of 30. And about 90% of all these young people live in the developing countries, and that is mainly in Asia and Africa. And approximately 3/4 of our own population is under the age of 35. This huge youth population has limitless possibilities to transform our societies and indeed to transform our world. But this is only if the right investments are made to prepare our youth for tomorrow's world. The GenU goal is to ensure that every person between the ages of 10 and 24 is either in school, in training, or in employment, and all this by the year 2030. This objective resonates very strongly with us because it speaks to an issue that is at the center of my administration. As I've said before, our youth are our nation's greatest resource. And I recognize from the very beginning of my own administration that this generation of young people has the potential to expand Kenya and Africa's productive workforce and turn our continent into a frontier of growth, innovation, and opportunities. And therefore, my administration will continue to prioritize investments in our young people. These investments, I believe, are already yielding some results. And we can confidently say that Kenya has made good progress to achieving the objectives of Generation U. To build strong foundations for competitiveness and productivity and to provide 21st century employable skills, the education sector in Kenya continues to receive the lion's share of our national budget. Currently, over 25% of our national cake is earmarked for education. And this is the largest single budgetary item that we have. I'm pleased to note that Kenya's education is recognized as one of the best on the African continent. Today, all children have access to free primary education, and transition to secondary education is now at 100%. Further, we have undertaken major reforms in the education sector, including, as was mentioned by the CAS earlier, making technical and vocational education and training more relevant and better aligned to the needs of our economy, and also making it more affordable for our people. The quality of education in our country is comparatively higher than that of peer countries. On globally harmonized test scores, Kenya's score is around 435. This is higher than many upper middle income countries, which scored 430. This gives us confidence that Kenya's labor force will be competitive on the global market. As many of you know, we have begun the implementation of a competency-based curriculum, and this will further enhance the quality, but also the relevance of our educational system. Ladies and gentlemen, appreciating the fact that our youth represents the future of any country, my administration has focused on trying to create job opportunities and sustainable livelihoods for our young people. And in this context, we have taken steps, for example, to expand the internship program with the aim of connecting skilled youth with job opportunities and to enable them to acquire practical and workplace skills. Indeed, our Big Four development agenda offers incredible opportunities for employment. As several of the video clips that we have watched today have demonstrated, there are many opportunities in agriculture, in health, in housing, in manufacturing, and in many other fields, including film, as we saw, and many others. I believe it is also worth underscoring that we have invested heavily in preparing Kenyans for a digital economy. And we have made great strides in harnessing and adapting digital technologies for the benefit of our people. We are close today to 100% universal mobile phone coverage, while 74% of Kenyans today are connected to the electricity grid. The Ajira digital program, which we have heard about, is helping technologically savvy Kenyans to take full advantage of the extensive technology platforms to create and connect to jobs, obtain accurate and relevant as well as timely labor market information, as well as to build a virtual support and mentorship ecosystem. Since its inception in 2017, more than 50,000 young Kenyans have been trained and mentored through the Ajira program on how to access work from digital platforms, and close to 700,000 Kenyans now source work from digital platforms. We have further put in place mechanisms to support the survival, growth, and productivity of micro, small, and medium-scale enterprises. For example, programs such as STAWI are providing some financial support to MSMEs that previously had been locked out of the formal banking sector. Towards the end of the month of August, another few weeks' time, we intend to also launch another product, again aimed at this same sector and to ensure that capital is more readily available to our young people. And this to support their enterprises. We have also, as a government, instituted a 30% government procurement opportunity, and these have been set aside for enterprises that are owned by our young people, by our women, and persons with disability. But despite all this, challenges still exist. Today, COVID-19 has disrupted our lives. We're meeting virtually as opposed to face-to-face, which would have been our hope today. This disruption has necessitated a shift in how we work, how we live, and indeed how we socialize. Many have lost their jobs or are faced with reduced incomes. But today I would like to encourage us all to focus on the opportunities during the crisis and to use the time to reimagine our society as well as our future. The digital ecosystem is one of the areas that is thriving and continues to offer many solutions that help mitigate the disruptions to our livelihoods and the economy that this pandemic has caused. Furthermore, my government has instituted programs, for example, such as Kazi Mtaani, which to date has engaged over 300,000 young Kenyans across the country in community and infrastructure projects. And this is not just helping young Kenyans earn a dignified wage, but also transforming the way we implement infrastructure projects. And we're learning a lot through this program, and hopefully this new way of doing infrastructure or major infrastructure projects will become institutionalized in our country. So even as we build our roads, even as we put up our electricity poles, even as we do our housing, we take into cognizance the fact that we need to include our young people in these developments. Young people today, across the world, not just here in Kenya, are indeed change makers. They have become outstanding advocates for change in societies on issues of human rights, technology, climate change, education, and many more. We all know of the story of Malala, the Pakistani activist for female education, who is the youngest Nobel Prize laureate, as well as Greta Thunberg, the Swedish environmental activist, who has stood up to global leaders to make the case known that the future belongs to the young people. I also wish to salute the many young Kenyan changemakers we today are inspired by the 15 medical and engineering students of Kenyatta University, who recently made history by making the country's first homegrown ventilator to help treat COVID-19 patients. I recognize the activists in Nandora fighting for disability rights, the human rights advocate in Eldoret defending the fundamental freedoms of access to universal health care, and the young innovators across the country who have heeded the call of Buy Kenya and Build Kenya and are manufacturing hospital beds and personal protective gear across the country. These and many such young people are truly the generation that is unlimited by COVID-19 or any similar challenge. Ladies and gentlemen, as I said, I have heard some of you and some of the interventions that have been made. And some of you have indicated that you want to become more engaged in national development issues. You want to have a voice on issues that affect you today and in your future. And I want to say that I fully support that sentiment. And indeed, you will note that during the last reorganization of my administration earlier this year, I appointed several individuals under the age of 35 to serve as chief administrative secretaries. As they work and understudy their ministerial colleagues, my expectation is that they will serve as role models to other young people and instill ideals of patriotism, integrity, and excellence in service. Indeed, in the coming days, I want to appoint a few more young people to join these talented CASs who are currently working day and night to prove their worth, their capacity, and their ability to take the bull by the horns and lead by example and show that the time for Kenyan youth is indeed today. I also expect these young CASs to engage our young people across the country to increase the participation and level of input and influence of our young people in public discourse. So, ladies and gentlemen, even as we acknowledge the progress that we have made, it is true that we must also recognize that a lot more still needs to be done. A significant number of our young people across the country are unemployed or underemployed. And the situation that we face of COVID-19 has made this situation worse. I'm also aware that our young people face significant structural, financial, and technical barriers that limit their access to sustainable work. And it's for this reason that I welcome GNU as a platform which will enable leaders, partners, and stakeholders to make investments that will unlock the potential of Kenyan youth and the youth world over. With the launch of GNU Kenya, I expect stakeholders to work together and more systematically to equip the youth with the right education and skills to compete against their peers from across the globe and to create a domestic environment for free enterprise to thrive. This, I believe, will not only attract investments, but will also lead to an increase in job opportunities. Finally, in my position as a global leader for the Young People's Agenda, I do invite all our partners across the world to use this platform to share their resources, their ideas and experiences to help scale up the youth agenda across the globe. Let me conclude with the words of President Franklin Roosevelt, who was the 32nd President of the United States of America, who said, and I quote, "We can't always build a future for our youth, but we can always build our youth for our future." End of quote. My commitment to the young people in Kenya is to build our youth for the future. This is my commitment to the young people in Kenya. We may not know what challenges you will face in the future, but through such programs as we are initiating today, we will continue to be relentless in our efforts to ensure that you are equipped with the skills, the resilience, and the confidence to be productively engaged in the economy and to shape the future of our nation. I urge all young people to seize this moment to become the generation that has limitless possibilities, because indeed, as we have heard from those wonderful young people who spoke, time ni yenu, turn ni yenu, na future tunayojenga ni yenu. God bless you all, and I look forward to engaging you as we continue with this discussion. Back to you, Joe.
What an exciting time. Generation Unlimited Kenya has officially launched. Many congratulations to everybody who's made this day possible and this partnership possible. We are thankful that Your Excellency, the President of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta, could be here for this wonderful occasion. And we're all very amped to see that in the next 10 years, we will have hit the goals that will really impact young people, not only in Kenya, but on the continent and globally.
Thank you so much, Adele Onyango, for that. And Your Excellency, my name is Wahiga Mwaura. Together with Adele Onyango, we have been the moderators for this particular event today. And thank you for your time and your words as well. Now, I've got a few questions from young people that we'll be playing shortly. But let me begin with just getting a better understanding, Your Excellency, for all those who are listening today. You are appointed as the global head of Generation Unlimited in 2018. What does that mean for the world and for you in taking that particular role?
Thank you, Wahiga, and I appreciate that. And let me just say that first and foremost, it was with great pride and honor, not only on my own behalf, but on Kenya's behalf, to accept that role in and amongst other global leaders to spearhead this particular agenda. And why is it important? It is important because, as I said in my statement, the future, but what we must to recognize today is that more so the present doesn't belong to us. It actually belongs to the young people, not only in this country, but in the world. So being recognized and being asked to take on this particular role, I believe first and foremost is in recognition of what this country has done in terms of pushing the youth agenda. It is in recognition of the advancements that we have made, both in education, but also in technology and in equipping our young people to be able to face that future. But the truth of the matter is that it is also a challenge. It is a challenge because, as I also equally said, despite the fact that we have made improvements, we still have a really long way to go. And I see myself as being a kind of role model, to be able to put the challenge to young people that our role is not just a mentorship role. Our role is one that seeks to encourage you to take up your responsibility and your leadership position today and to prepare the future for yourselves. And ours is to guide that particular process. So, Wahiga, let me just say that I have a very strong desire to see us use this particular position to push the youth agenda not only to the fore here in the Republic, but also to be able to show the great potential that our young people have in terms of the future of the globe. I see ourselves as a country that has the potential, through working with our young people, hand in hand, to show that this potential, this so-called youth bulge, as I always say, is not a problem, but the greatest asset that not only this country, but the world has. But it is how we guide that. It is how we use that. It is what tools and skills we implement and put into our young people to prepare them for that future that will ensure that this quote-unquote youth bulge is actually a youth opportunity. So I look at Generation Unlimited as a medium through which all of us who see this potential, who see the possibility that our young people have, can actually come together and pool our resources, be it government, private sector, the financial institutions, that these young people are not people to be turned away. But if we really want our businesses to grow, if we really want our economy to continue expanding, that's not going to happen if we exclude young people, if we exclude women, if we exclude people with disabilities. All that we do by continuing to exclude that particular generation is keep us back. But if we really want to explode the development potential, if we really want to put to the fore the capacity and the ability of the African continent to become a first world country, that can only happen by exploiting and allowing the potential of our young people to bloom.
Thank you so much for that. My name is Adele Onyango. I have been the co-moderator with Waiga this afternoon. I really do echo your sentiments on it's no longer the future, we're talking about the present. And speaking of present, we do have young people who have sent in questions especially for you. And we'll start off with Deng, who has sent in a question from Kakuma. So I'd urge you to just watch this next video.
Hi, my name is Nial Deng. I'm 21 years old and I've spent the last 11 years in Kakuma refugee camp. I'm so glad that Kenya is on board Generation Unlimited. My question is which strategies are put in place by the government of Kenya and its partners to make sure that no young person in the country is laboring in accessing education, entrepreneurial and job opportunities, including marginalized youth and refugee youth who live in camps across the country like myself. Thank you very much.
Yes, that's from Deng in Kakuma. So
Thank you, Nial, for that. Or do you want me to answer or you want more questions?
I want you to answer it.
Adele.
You heard it.
Well, Nial, let me just say that first and foremost, we in Kenya believe that nobody should be left behind. In fact, that is why over the years, we have hosted many like yourselves who have come to seek refuge in Kenya. And one of the principles and policies that we have is that you are part and parcel of us. You have come to Kenya to seek refuge, but we also believe that that refuge is not just refuge, but should also be an opportunity for you to join hands with us, for you to be able to be given the same opportunities that we are giving our young people, so that by the time you also return, you are also armed with the same skills that you can be able to take back to your brothers and sisters, for example, in South Sudan. Because this partnership, this Generation Unlimited, is not a generation that we want stuck between the colonial boundaries that we inherited. For it to really become that force that we see it as, we want the young people in South Sudan, in Uganda, in Ethiopia, in Somalia, to join hands with their Kenyan brothers and sisters, to get to know one another, to get to be able to understand each other, to be able to see how to find solutions to their common problems. Because at the end of the day, what does any human being really look for? You want a good education. You want good health. You want decent housing. You want security. You want to be able to know that after you've put your effort into something, that you have a job that will enable you to have a decent livelihood. These are the same aspirations our young people have across the continent. So I just want to tell you, Niall, that as far as I am concerned, what I talk for Kenyan young men and women is the same thing I will talk for you who have come to Kenya to both seek refuge. We want you to be part and parcel of us. We want to be able to work together. And the same TVET institutions that we're talking about, we want these TVET institutions also opened up to those who are living in refugee camps. You should also equally be able to take advantage of these institutions, to learn from these institutions, to get the skills with the same skills as we are imparting on your brothers and sisters, for you to be able to use them either here in Kenya or when you get back home. So let me just say that I don't see the current situation that is facing you today as a refugee equally as a problem. I see it as an opportunity for us to be able to build linkages with people like yourselves, who will be able to understand us as we understand you, who will be able to create linkages between the young people in Kenya and those in South Sudan, and for us to be able to build a society where we can coexist, and a society where we have peace and stability across the region, because it is only then and through getting to know each other that we shall fully be able to exploit the opportunities that are out there. So then, as far as I'm concerned, we will continue to work together with our international partners to ensure that these same opportunities that we want to grant to Kenyans are also equally guaranteed and granted to those who have come to seek refuge in our country.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for that. Wahiga here again. Our next question is from Ruth Kaveke from Mombasa. It's in form of a video. Let's watch and listen.
My name is Ruth Kaveke. I have over 6 years experience working in Kenya by providing young women with employable technological skills. My question to the President is, what are the strategies the government is putting into place to ensure that young women from the grassroots levels are encouraged and inspired to gain access to digital skills so that they're able to contribute to the digital economy in our country, Kenya?
I trust you got all that, Your Excellency.
I did, and thank you for that, Ruth. And I go back to the point that I said. I don't like creating any distinctions either between national boundaries or county boundaries, between rural and urban youth. I think we are all one, and we should have opportunities for all. So the programs that we have initiated, for example, the Ajira program that we have talked about, Ajira program is aimed at training our young people to be able to get access to digital work. And in this instance, we want to encourage people like yourselves who are trainers of trainers to use that platform to be able to work with, for example, our Ajira trainers, for you to be able to acquire those skills and to be able to pass on those skills to the other young men and women who you are currently engaged with and training to show them how online work can be made available. Secondly, we have the innovation hubs that we are developing virtually in every constituency. These innovation hubs are supposed to be a center where people can have access, our young people, to free internet, to computers, to be able not only to learn, but also to become startups, where you can go and start your business, where you can have the basic infrastructure to incubate your business. And these innovation hubs we want to do across all our 290 constituencies, so that every constituency has a facility like that for it to be able to become the center of digital learning, but also the ability to incubate small businesses that are technologically related. So that is another program that we're also pushing forward. As I have said, we also have a variety of different credit programs, and a new one we're about to launch. But again, and that's why I'm saying this kind of interaction is quite useful, because I've heard that on the one part, there is limited information as to these various funds that we have. And secondly, there is a lack of coordination, possibly, in and amongst the various agencies that are handling these different funds. This is something that we are going to look into, to simplify, to streamline, to be able to have better communication so that young people can understand where they can go to get assistance, especially with regards to credit, which is a major stumbling block for the development of many of our small, medium-sized enterprises across the world. So let me just say that we need to start looking to see how we can get this information down to the grassroots, so that you, Ruth, can have access, especially you who is a trainer of trainers, can have access to this kind of information, and so that you equally are able to impart it to those that you are training, for them to be able to see what are the various avenues are available to you and to your colleagues, to be able, like I'm saying, to either incubate your businesses or to be able to get credit to start up these businesses. So all I can do is say I encourage you, and we will see how we can reach out to you and to many others, so that this information, which probably isn't really getting to the grassroots, actually gets to the grassroots, and you are able to see what are those areas that you can take advantage of to build and to grow your businesses, but also to disseminate the same to your young people all the way down at the grassroots.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for that answer. You touched on things that were brought up on Twitter during this conversation, on Facebook, about just the access to information. And you know, there was a spotlight on the disconnect there. I know you have a very, very hectic schedule, but we have two more questions for you, Wahiga and I. And the first one is just coming off of that disconnect. Earlier on, we had Wawiranjuru, who is a young person. She's founded Food for Education, running a small organization that is very impactful on ground. And we know there are very many other young Kenyans who are doing organizations similar to hers on ground, solving problems in the community and also problems for the youth. So my question is just going forward to try and get to actualize the Gen U goals. What are we going to see more partnership between the government agencies and these young-led, smaller, community-based organizations to try and actualize the Gen U goals?
I believe that this is a great opportunity, and I think that's where this Generation Unlimited really comes into play, because there are a variety of different programs that have been established over the years, and as has come out indeed from the conversation this afternoon, it is true, there is seemingly this disconnect between the various programs that have been put in play and those that need to take advantage of these having the relevant information and knowledge as to how they can access these programs, these funds, and etc. And I think that's something that has come out. And I think that one of the things that Generation Unlimited, our Kenyan chapter, should really focus on, this is an opportunity for the government, for the county governments, for private sector players, for our development partners, for all the NGOs to be able to sit around one table and say, how do we bridge this disconnect between all the different programs that all these different players have across the board, and how do we now ensure that not only do we have information going to the people, because that's the way it should be, not them seeking information. It should be, how do we make sure this information gets to the people? And how do we facilitate the same young people to be able to take advantage of these? Because that's why the funds were set. So I'm really very hopeful that this Generation Unlimited Kenyan chapter, the first thing it will focus on is how to bridge this divide, is how to ensure, even before we start talking about new programs, this disconnect. How do all these players sit around the table? And my representative, who is the Minister of ICT, Joe Moshero, and I'm instructing him in this meeting now, that must be the first agenda of the next session. How do you bridge this divide? How do you ensure that this gap between existing programs and the beneficiaries of those programs, how do you make sure that we bridge this gap? And that, I think, is a call I'm putting on, not just to my minister, but also to all the other partners who are going to engage. Let us not talk first about developing new programs. Let us talk about how do we get information on existing programs out of our offices and to the grassroots where they're needed. And I think that's the first challenge I put to the team. This is what I want you to work on. This is what I want you to do. Let us not talk about reinventing or creating new programs. Let us first get ongoing programs, ongoing resources to the people and bridge that gap and remove that divide or that information divide that is making our young people unable to take advantage of the programs that we have.
Asante sana, Your Excellency. Oh, sorry, go ahead, CS.
No, I was just going to say the instruction is clear. We will implement, sir, as directed. Thank you.
Fantastic. Direct feedback there from ICT CS Joe Musharu. Thank you, Your Excellency. Very strong words on bridging the gap. I'm going to give you a chance, Your Excellency, to give us your parting shot. And even as you do so, some of the questions that have come up have had to do with accountability, keeping youth front and center in the way the decisions are made, in the way resources are allocated, and also in getting feedback and accountability on different projects. So you could tackle that as you give us your parting shot, Your Excellency.
Thank you. I think the first thing I want to say is that I think this is a great moment for our country. I think we are at a very interesting time where as a country, as the world, we are facing humongous challenges that have been brought about by this COVID-19. It has affected, as I said earlier, not just our health systems, but it has affected our economies. It has affected the way we socialize. It has affected so many things. And there's two ways we can take this. We can take this as a problem, which it is, but we can also say that with every problem lies opportunities. I am hoping that this is going to be an opportunity for our young people, and that we shall be able to mobilize ourselves and to rethink and to reimagine ourselves, both as a people, as a country, and as a world. As I have said, I have taken advantage of this particular period to also reimagine myself and the way we go about doing things. I've mentioned, for example, how we are relooking at all the procurement that has to do with our infrastructure, for example, and saying, how can we remodel the way we have been doing our infrastructure programs and projects and involve more our young people? And I've seen it work. I've been going around to the various projects the roads, for example, that are being done in Mukuru, the road that is being done out in Grogan in Nairobi, the Michuki Park, and all the other things that we're doing. These have all involved heavily young people who I am also now encouraging to form groups and ultimately companies that can be charged with the responsibility of doing some of these contracts directly. And so to me, that is an opportunity. That is a different way of looking at infrastructure than we have in the past. So I think that for me, as a parting shot, is to say, let us not look at the difficulties that we face, because it is true, we are faced with difficulties. And there are two types of people who come out of difficulties. One is those who will moan and groan and do nothing about the challenges they face. But there is also those who will come together and say, yes, this is indeed our time, our moment. What is it that we can do? What are the opportunities that are available? And how can we all work together to turn disaster into a huge opportunity? I am encouraging our young people, don't allow yourselves to be used. Don't allow yourselves to be tools of political leaders like myself. Take this as a challenge for you. What is it that you can do for yourself? Begin to demand your space. Begin to demand your right, your ability to not only be a decision maker on your own, but also to chart your own future and to choose your leaders based on the principle of not who gives you 5, 10 shillings or 100 shillings for that day, but to choose your leaders even from amongst your own generation, and to choose leaders who will be able to define through their actions, through their deeds, the aspirations that you hold. This is really, I believe, the opportunity that we have. And this is where I really look forward to working with our young people. And as I said earlier, in the coming days, I will also be adding many more. Well, let me say many more, but I will be adding a good number of additional CASs of the same generation. Young men and women who I hope will engage with their fellow young men and women and come and bring them on board to become decision makers today. Because as I always repeat and I say again, it is not the future that belongs to the youth. It is today that belongs to the youth. And you must take it and you must grasp it and you must run with it and you must refuse and reject anybody who wants to use you for any other reason than your own future, than your own opportunity to make something great and grand out of your life. Irregardless of what part of the country you come from, irregardless of your gender, irregardless of your disability, you are a son, a child of this continent, of this country. Your rights start today, but it begins by you taking responsibility for your life, you taking responsibility for the decisions that you take today, and knowing how they will affect not just you, but the future, and the future are your children, because the present is you.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for those sentiments. I appreciate that you addressed very many issues that were brought up during our panel discussions today. And I think on our end, we're super excited to see how we can actualize the Generation Unlimited goals in the next 10 years. If we hit them even earlier, even better. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Well done, and I wish you all the best, and we'll continue partnering together. Sid, thank you very much. To all of you out there, wonderful, and I wish you continued wonderful and excellent deliberations. And I look forward to hearing from the Minister the conclusions and the way forward, and I will continue to partner with you as we move on. Thank you all very much, and have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So as you heard throughout this conversation. Our work here is laid out for us for the next decade to ensure goals of GenU are realized. Now, they have been promises set out. We've seen tasks been given to different government agencies, and the youth, our call to action is to, hold them accountable, but also seize our presence and make it work for us as well. As a young person, I do urge you to stay educated, hold leaders accountable, and I truly hope the stories that you've heard on the panels today from Wawira, from Bernard, have totally inspired you.
Adele, thank you so much for really wrapping that up really well. The only thing I can add, even as we conclude, is, of course, for those who need more details, you can go on to www.genukenya.or.ke. You can also log on to www.generationunlimited.org. Alternatively, you can shoot an email to the genusecretariat@gmail.com. And I believe you've been following the conversation online, #GenU, #GenerationUnlimited, and @GenUKenya. Tweet them, send a DM, send a message, and you'll be able to get more information as well. What a session we've had, Adele. I can't believe our time is up, but all things must come to an end. And so I'll give you a chance for a final word.
Oh yeah, I'm really charged up, ready to go. So inspired by Bernard, who has created a first for Kenya, something that is so necessary in this climate while we battle a pandemic. And I'm looking forward to seeing how we can make sure that we empower young people, not just in Kenya, but in Africa as well.
Bernard actually had a message of gratitude to His Excellency that I wasn't able to get in before His Excellency signed off, just saying that he's received a lot of support in rolling out that ventilator project. And I know a lot of young people out there have their ideas as well, hoping that they will be able to actualize them, as we've seen with Bernard today. Well, Adele, on behalf of the whole big team that's made this possible, and of course, many thanks to His Excellency, all the dignitaries that we had, the representatives from the United Nations, not forgetting the distinguished young people. Thank you.
Yes.
And goodbye, stay safe.
There are those who imagine the future, and then there are those who create it. Those who transform our societies in such a way that we forget there ever existed another way. Those who bring tomorrow today. Our youth, as I have said severally, are our nation's greatest resource. Indeed, as I have traveled across the country, I am inspired by the creativity, the boldness, and the resilience of our young people as they use their talents and energies to innovate and to forge a better tomorrow for themselves as well as Kenya as a whole. I have instituted now compulsory primary and secondary education. And the word compulsory is there to ensure that it is about every child. It is compulsory primary and secondary education for all the children of Kenya, punishable by law for parents or societies that don't take their children to school. Our sons and daughters who graduate and do not go to university will have the choice to undertake technical education, which promises to gain them decent employment. This was yet another area of our attention, where we delivered new and upgraded technical training institutes throughout the Republic. As a government, we have started to harness the energy of our young people, engaging them in the National Hygiene Program that is more commonly now being referred to as Kazi Mtaani Initiative. Currently, during the trial period, which we have been executing over the last few weeks, we have engaged a total of 26,000 young people. We now intend to increase that number to 200,000 young men and women across our country. My administration is particularly keen to support our youth and to encourage more of our young people to engage in agriculture and agribusiness. And we will continue to develop several technology-driven programs to enable them participate in the agricultural production value chain. the newly appointed Chief Administrative Secretaries. Congratulations. You have also a lot of youthful energy around you. And today, as we launch the young people's agenda, I think it is important for us to join in spirit with the young people, with their hopes, with their dreams, and with their ambitions. And we should